All of the stories you're about to hear are things that have happened to me firsthand. They're not stories that I pulled from the internet. They're not stories I'm retelling from a family member or a friend. Just wanted to clarify that before we start, because I don't think I mentioned it at the beginning of the live stream. Here's the intro. I'm wearing headphones to make sure the audio's good, but it's on a half-second delay. It's very odd, but I'm going to try to push through it. I'm here to tell you stories. Now, I don't have anything super crazy. I'm just going to tell you that up front. I don't have anything like a ghost walking into my room trying to kill me. I just have weird things, scary things, strange things that have happened to me throughout my life, mostly in recent memory, that I can't explain, but that I'm hoping you'll get some entertainment out of and you can draw your own conclusions from. Are these actually paranormal events or supernatural events of some kind? That's up for you to decide. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, if you are, for everyone watching right now, live stream, video, whatever, you can see that I'm in a swamp. This is my scary swamp. Occasionally, pretty frequently actually, you'll see a ghost, a square ghost with no form at all, pass by the camera. That's our good friend Jimmy. I hope he doesn't annoy you too much. I know he probably shouldn't pass by the camera as often as he does, but it's okay. Let's get into the first story. It is called Hey Jojo. Now you need a little bit of context going in. Who's Jojo? Jojo is Travis's uncle. If you don't know Travis, that is my co-host in most videos on this channel, and my best friend, who I've known since first grade. Travis and I, we've been friends for a long time, and one of our favorite pastimes when we were young was to go in my backyard when it was dark and just look for ghosts. We really wanted to find a ghost, but simultaneously we were very scared of ghosts. So anytime we would hear a sound, we would just run back to the porch, screaming. That was when we were young. Once we got, probably middle school age, we didn't do that as much. We aged down to that. Anyway, in high school, don't know what year, but when we were both in high school at some point, we went into my backyard and just sort of, as a joke, decided to try to look for ghosts or other strange creatures in my backyard. We searched for a while, of course, didn't find anything, because we never do. But then we saw this dark area behind my trees in the back of my backyard. And I think Travis or I jokingly said, well, that's so dark, anyone could be hiding back there. Which is true, it's pitch black. And then he's like, well, maybe Jojo's back there right now. Maybe Jojo's just hanging out with us. So I said, hey, Jojo, not expecting a response. But what I got was, just like that. And what's especially creepy about that, it's creepy by itself, because we did not expect a response. What's especially creepy is that it sounded like it wasn't just coming from the dark area that Travis was talking about. It sounded like it was right in front of us, right on the other side of the fence that we were standing near. So, even if it's not a ghost, even if this is a man, this is scary. We feared for our safety because it sounded like there was just a man on the other side of the fence laughing at us. So we ran back to the porch, And this time, unlike many of our other ghost adventures, just went inside. Because as I said, we were genuinely concerned that there was a real person, not a ghost, out there who could potentially harm us. So that is the story of Hey Jojo. Now, even though I said we never found any real ghost in my backyard, or anything even ghost-like, there are many other strange happenings similar to the Hey Jojo story that I can tell you. The next one is the most similar, and it is called the Weehee Man. Now, I hope Weehee, spelled W-E-E-H-E-E, isn't any like slang word that means something bad that I don't know. If it is, I'll cut this part out of the video. For those listening in the live stream, please tell me if it is something bad, and I'll stop saying it. I should have looked this up beforehand. This story, I think, yeah, we weren't looking for ghosts. It was me and Travis again, walking in our backyard. I don't remember exactly what we were doing, but way in the distance, unrelated to what we were doing, we just hear I think a man, go, wee hee 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 hee. The Weehee Man. That's his sound. That's his call. That's where he got his name. We hear him. We're like, what is that? We kind of think it's just like some weird dude partying or something. Maybe a drunk guy who's just screaming at the sky. He sounds at least like 2 streets down from us. So, in true dumb, like, horror movie protagonist fashion, we mirror his call. We just repeat what he says. So we go, wee hee 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 hee, loud enough to where we think he can hear it. And then we hear it again, but closer. He responds, exact same call, closer. At this point, once again, this could just be a real guy, and we should not be trying to reveal our location to him, because he could be a threat. But once again, in true horror movie protagonist fashion, we're dumb. So we do that same call again. I'm not going to do it again because I'm getting tired of doing it. But you know what the sound is. We do it again. We hear him respond immediately, once again. But this time, it sounds too close. Not as close as the Jojo guy from the previous story, but at least like 1 or 2 yards away from us. Not yards as in measurement, yards as in backyards. If he was 1 or 2 yards away from us in terms of like, what is it? It's not metric system. The other system, the one that America uses. If it was those kind of yards, we would already be dead. But no, that was too close for us. So we did not repeat it again. We went inside, just like with the Hey Jojo story, because, like I said, we were genuinely frightened that a real person who intended to harm us was potentially going to enter our backyard and come for us. So we went inside. We were dumb, but not dumb enough to stay out there once we heard it that close. So that is the Weehee Man. Maybe he and the Jojo guy were the same person. It's hard to say. Anyway, let's move on to the third story. It continues the backyard saga of stories. The next story is sort of just a collection of various strange things from my backyard. I call it The Chair and Other Oddities. Let's talk about the chair first. So, as I said, we once thought we heard a guy named, or not named, but we called him Jojo behind our back fence. Well, we've heard multiple things behind this back fence. Sometimes people walk on a train track that is about, I'd say, 20 feet behind this fence. So it's a pretty common spot for people just walking and stuff. But that said, one day we went back there to investigate it. We expect people to be walking down the train tracks. We expect to see people back there occasionally. What we did not expect to find was a weird clearing. Like, it's very overgrown back behind my fence. There's trees, vines, bushes, just all tons of stuff. But in this one area, just down a view of where you can see from my backyard normally, we spotted a chair in a clearing where someone has clearly removed the foliage from that area so that they can sit there. It's incredibly close to our backyard, so immediately we wonder, who's sitting back here? The chair isn't covered in like leaves or anything, so it's been used recently. Who's sitting in this chair just a little bit behind our backyard? We also will occasionally see people walking not on the train tracks, but almost in our yard, like very close to the fence. So it could be some of them. And whether or not these people actually intend to do any harm, I doubt they do. I think they're just hanging out back there. It is unnerving to know that there are potentially people just sitting, chilling out right behind our backyard where we frequently go. It's not a good feeling to know that people just could be back there at any time. So that's the chair. Let's discuss the other oddities. Really, there's only one, unless I'm forgetting one. My backyard has a gravestone that we did not place there. And we don't know who placed it there. And we don't know who the guy whose name is on the gravestone is. The grave belongs to Edgar White. It's been at our house for as long as we can remember. And this is a pretty old house, so it could have been like the first original owners, long, long ago, could have put it here. We doubt there's actually something buried under the gravestone, but it is weird to have a gravestone in your backyard dedicated to someone who you don't know, and when you research their name and ask previous owners of the house information about them, just no one knows. There's no results for anything. We cannot find any information on Edgar White, any information on who put this gravestone here, why it's here, if anyone's actually buried in our backyard. So that's the other oddity. Gravestone in my backyard. The more you know. Now let's switch from creepy people hanging out behind/beside my house to potentially otherworldly events. Now, once again, just like I told you with the ghosts, where I'm not claiming any of these to actually be paranormal or actually be ghosts, I'm not claiming this to actually be aliens, because there's nowhere near enough evidence to even start assuming that. But your mind does jump there when you hear this, so let me tell you the tale. Before I met Travis in first grade, I used to hang out every single week with this kid named Bryson. And he and I one night went in my backyard, the same backyard from every single story I've told thus far. And we were just hanging out on my playground that I have in the backyard. I don't remember what we were talking about. We were just having a casual conversation. Nothing about ghosts, nothing about aliens, just random kid conversations. Well, then, out of nowhere, this huge red light, huge circular red light, sweeps over the entirety of the backyard, starting from the opposite end of the backyard to where we are, and all the way over to us and into the neighbor's yard. It's at least, I would say, it was at least 30 to 35 feet in diameter. And it passed over very quickly. Immediately, I tried to find a rational explanation for what it was. Because while I wanted to believe it was aliens, because I'm a kid and that's very exciting, I figured, it was probably just something else, something I don't understand, something I don't know about yet. So I look around. I notice in the neighbor's yard, not the neighbor's yard where the light went, but the neighbor's yard in the direction that the light came from, they have a little alarm thing positioned just underneath their roof, their awning, that has a blinking red light on it. But that red light is incredibly small. And it also just blinks. You know, it doesn't have the capability of moving. It can't do that. It just blinks. It's motionless. So how that could be the sweeping, huge, circular red light that we saw, I do not know. So then when I told the story to Travis, he was like, oh, well, if I were in that situation, I would just assume it was a plane. That's also... Oh, it's a truck going by my house. You probably didn't hear that. It could have just been a plane. That's what Travis said, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to think. That makes sense to me. That very well could be the case. But at least from my memory, it was just a light. There was nothing attached to the light, nothing flying above the light, nothing creating the light at all. It was just a light. Unless the thing was so far up in the sky to where it didn't catch our eye at the time. I don't think there was anything attached to the light. It was just a big old light going through our yard into the neighbor's yard. What to make of that, I do not know. Oh, and before I end that story, because that's really all I have, none of these have really satisfying endings. They're all unsolved mysteries of sorts. Before I end it, though, I do want to tell you that when it happened initially, and I looked at Bryson and said, "What in the world was that?" He responded, "It's my X-Man powers." I guess he was into X-Men at the time. We weren't talking about X-Men, but he said, "Those are my X-Man powers." Which, if that's the case, which it's definitely not, but if that were the case, let's pretend he's telling the truth. That's the lamest X-Man power I've ever heard. What's your superpower, man? Oh, I can make a red light. Oh, what does it do? Nothing. It's just a red light. It just passes over people's backyards, and then it goes away. That's it. Professor X, you proud of me? That is the red light. Is it aliens? Probably not. But it was weird, and I can't explain it. Next we have the curse. This is the story that, well, it's not the most recent story. I was wrong. But it is the second most recent story. This happened about 2 months ago, I think. So there's a sidewalk in front of our house. And from my room, sitting at my computer, I have just direct line of sight to this sidewalk that goes in front of our house. I don't necessarily just stare around it, waiting for people to pass by, but whenever they do, it's very easy to notice who's passing by. Because I like to keep my window open, get some light in. Well, normally, people will either just walk by, keep going on their way, or they'll stop and just take a rest on our front steps, which I wish they wouldn't do, but, whatever. Or they'll stop and check their phone directly in front of my house for some reason. I guess our house is just a comforting place. That's the place they feel safest to stop. Well, one guy stops on this day that I'm describing. I don't know why I said that. One guy stops. He doesn't have a phone in his hand. It doesn't look like he's doing anything. He just turns and faces our house. He faces the front door, maybe a little above the front door, and just stares. He doesn't do anything, just stares. And I kind of close my blinds mostly so that he can't see me, but I peek through and keep an eye on what he's doing because his behavior is strange and I want to make sure he doesn't do anything crazy. Well, he doesn't do anything dangerous per se, but it was kind of crazy. My suspicions were justified because after staring for a while, this man just holds up both his hands and starts gesturing at our house. He's not gesturing to anyone. No one's on our porch talking to this man. He's just looking at our house, gesturing with his hands, almost as if he's like trying to do magic or something, like a fantasy movie form of magic where you just wave your hands around in a certain pattern and then boom, something happens. And then after he does this hand signal, he puts his hands back down and goes on walking. Now, my question is, what in the world was this man doing? My best guess is he was trying to put a curse on our house. Now, that might sound weird to have as like a best guess. It's like there's got to be other guesses you have before that. But I don't know what other reason he would have to make weird hand gestures towards our house while staring at our house just blankly and then going on his way. What else could he have been doing? I don't know. Do you know? Does anyone watching the live stream know? Do you guys want to offer up any guesses? No, everyone's just saying you're cursed, man. Well, thanks, guys. Okay, before we move on to the next story, there are 4 more, and then we're done here. I first want to answer some mail. Today's mail comes from Hannah Williams. Who is she? I don't know, but she sent us mail. Hopefully she didn't want Travis to answer, because he's not here. It's just me. The question is, do you believe in ghosts? I haven't outright said that yet. I've just said I'm not claiming any of these to be ghosts, so let me answer that. Yes, I do. But I'm not the kind of person who will just see any video of anything ghost-like and go, oh, yep, there it is. That's proof. We now know. Ghosts exist. I told you guys. I'm pretty skeptical of ghost videos. If I can, will find just about any way to pass off any ghost video as a hoax. Because I don't trust the people making these videos to not be lying to me. Which, I mean, in your guys' case, listening to this, I could be lying to you about all these stories. But if I were lying, don't you think these stories would be a little more dramatic, a little more action-packed? These are fairly tame as far as like strange stories go. So, anyway, I do believe in ghosts. Don't necessarily believe 95% of the ghost videos I see. There are some, though. I can't name any specifically because I don't remember any of their names, but there are some ghost videos that I've seen that I have such a hard time disproving that I feel like they are genuinely ghosts captured on camera. And by the way, very soon, sometime this month, because it is spooky month, Travis and I are going to be looking at some ghost videos that have been recorded on the internet and giving our thoughts on them. So look forward to that. But for now, you're just going to have to listen to more stories from me. Starting off with the Motionless Man. Now this story, luckily, does not take place at my house. Every single story thus far has taken place either in my backyard or in the sidewalk in front of our house. We're away from my house now. We are well down the road into another town. So whenever I went to college, I'm out of college now, I would have to drive about 45 minutes to get to my college every single day because I didn't want to live there. And on my way there, at one point, I would pass a Dollar Tree, which, you know, Dollar Trees, not particularly scary, not particularly haunted. But in my 3rd year of going to college, I started noticing every single day, no matter what time I drove to college, no matter what time I went home, every time I would pass this Dollar Tree, there would just be this motionless, semi-old man. He's somewhere between middle-aged and elderly. So I see this motionless man. On the first day, I don't think much of it. I'm just like, okay, that's weird. There's a guy standing on the sidewalk. Why is he not moving? That's kind of weird. I think I kind of just laughed at it at the time. Just kind of passed it off as just a weird guy who doesn't move. But then whenever I went home that same way and saw him again, standing in the same spot, I was like, oh no, wait a second. What's going on here? And I'm seeing a few people in the comments, or in the chat, sorry, not in the comments. I can't see the comments. Those will be in the future. I see a few people in the chat saying, well, is he one of those guys that twirls the signs or holds the signs? Maybe he just put down the sign. If so, the entire course of time where I saw him, which was over many months, I never saw him holding a sign. So he was not doing a very good job if that was his job. Over the next few months, as I just said, I continued to see this man, not every single day consistently, but almost every single day. And every time I would see him, he'd be in the exact same spot, never moving. And this story at least does have some sort of development, because it's creepy as is. I don't have much else to say, considering that he's just a motionless man that never moves. You know, since he doesn't do anything, I don't have much to describe. But one day, I stopped seeing him, and then about a month after his disappearance, I was coming back from college. A different guy, a much younger guy, who does look kind of similar to him, but not really, is standing in the exact same spot where this guy was standing. This time, not just standing motionless, staring at nothing, but staring at the oncoming traffic, which at this point, at the point I saw him, included me. So I decide I'm going to make eye contact with this guy, because I was so amused and interested in the fact that this motionless man has been standing in this spot for so long that I'm like, I want to see some sort of development. I'm going to try to make eye contact with this guy who has replaced the motionless man, just to see what happens. I make eye contact with him as I'm passing him. He makes eye contact with me. He's looking straight at me. He starts dancing, which isn't particularly spooky, but it was pretty funny. I did not expect to get much of a reaction at all from the guy. Definitely didn't expect him to start dancing. So we went from a motionless man who vanished to a guy who's motionless until you make eye contact with him. And then he starts dancing, which is funny. So that's the story of the motionless man. Maybe one day I'll see the original guy again. I hope so. Well, if I do, though, I hope it's like in the same spot or something, not in my backyard where all of the creepy people are. The next story is by far the least scary. But it is strange, and I definitely can't explain why this happened. This happened more to Travis than it did to me, but I was there. I was in the area. I witnessed it happen. So I'll tell you all the same. So we were eating at KFC one day before we were going to go on a hike up a mountain. They gave us cups. We went to the soda fountain thing so we could fill up the cups with whatever drink we want. I fill up my drink first. I go back to the booth. Travis is filling up his drink. I notice after he's filled it up on his way back, he passes by this guy. And I can tell when he passes by Travis reacts in some weird way. Like he gives the guy a weird look and just keeps walking towards the table. By the time he gets back to our table, he tells us, hey, you're never going to believe what this guy just said to me. It was so weird. I'm like, what'd he say? Travis says, yeah, I passed this guy, don't know who this guy is, never seen this guy before in my life. He looks at me, gestures towards the bathroom and says, "The bathroom is over there," and then keeps walking. Now, Travis didn't mention the bathroom at all, so why this guy would randomly tell Travis, "Hey, the bathroom is over there," I don't know. It's sort of a running joke with us now. And what's weirder is after he told us the story, after he told us what the guy said, he tried to point out the guy to us. The guy was gone. Because we were like, "Oh, who is this guy? We want to make sure he's not doing anything weird." He was gone. So did he just tell Travis where the bathroom is and then immediately walk out of KFC and leave? And there was no one with him either, at least from what Travis said. It is very possible that this guy could have been talking to someone behind Travis that Travis didn't notice, and Travis just thought the dude was talking to him. Maybe someone behind Travis did want to know where the bathroom was, and that guy was just helping him out, and then they left. That would be normal. But that is the story of the KFC bathroom. And that concludes sort of the first big section of my stories. The last two stories are less like paranormal / strange, creepy people related and more Twilight Zone-esque. And the next story actually happened to me yesterday. So this is very recent. Yesterday and the day before, really. So 2 days ago, Travis and I were talking about, if we were lucky enough to just have a ton of money, what kind of houses would we want? What would our dream houses be? And I won't tell you what Travis said because it's not relevant to the story, but I told Travis, "Oh, one day I was trying to go to my friend Tyler's house, who lives near me, and I went down a wrong road and ended up passing by this really cool looking house. It's like a Mediterranean style house with really beautiful, very green, bright green trees all around it. It looked almost too good to be true. Like, this is the most perfect house I've ever seen." And I said, if I had just an infinite amount of money, I wouldn't go for a mansion or something that cost a ton of money. I'd go for this house because this is the best house I've ever seen. I remember when I saw that house the first time, I had to just stop in the road and stare at it for a second because it was so good. So the other day, since I told Travis about this house 2 days ago, yesterday I decided, while I was just going on a drive, I was like, I'm going to try to pass by this house and take a picture of it so that Travis can see exactly what house I was talking about. And also just because I want to see it again. It's been a while since I've seen the house. I want to remind myself how amazing it is. I searched for this house for so long. I drove down every street near Tyler's house. Every single street I could find, I went down it, I went back up it, looked at every house on every one of those roads. The house is not there. So then I start to feel crazy. I'm like, wait. So I get home. I go on Google Maps, Google Street View, the satellite image. I'm looking for this house. I can't find it. I can't find anything even remotely similar to it. I can't find any evidence that this house ever actually existed. So I tell Travis about this. I send him a text. I'm like, hey, remember that house I told you about? It's not on Google Maps. I can't find it. I went driving to try to find it. It's nowhere. And he's like, oh, it was just a figment of your imagination then. You must have just dreamed it or something. It was a literal dream house. Which I suppose is possible. But if it was a dream, that's one of the most real feeling dreams I've ever had. I'm almost 100% positive to this day that I have driven to this house and seen it in person. It was not a figment of my imagination. It was not a dream. And yet I cannot find it. Now, this story, though it does sound Twilight Zone-esque, it does have a very, rational explanation. And that is that I could just be forgetting where exactly I saw this house. Like, I might have remembered seeing it somewhere near Tyler's house, but that could just be a false memory, and it could be somewhere entirely different. Let's move on to the final story, the bathroom floor melody, which is one of the weirdest names on this list. Maybe not as weird as the KFC bathroom, because that doesn't sound scary at all. But yeah, bathroom floor melody. In case you don't know, I've mentioned this on the channel before, but maybe this is the first video you're seeing. I make instrumental music, not super frequently, but regularly. It's one of my hobbies that I do in my spare time. And sometimes I'll just sit down at my recording software and just try to come up with something on the spot. But other times, I'll just be doing something entirely separate from my music, and a melody will pop into my head. And if it's good enough, then I'll try to remember it for when I get back to my keyboard so I can record it and save it for later. Well, this one melody popped into my head one day. This very creepy, somber, it's like a song you would play upon someone's death in a movie or something. It has that sort of a quality to it. And I was humming it to myself to try to remember, to try to get it stuck in my brain so that when I get back to the keyboard, I can play it and save it, like I said. Well, sometimes, in order to help myself remember the melodies better, my brain will sort of, without really thinking about it too much, come up with lyrics to associate with the notes so that they become easier to remember. Word music association type of thing. And the lyrics that popped into my mind for this melody, for whatever reason, were, "Maybe you'll find me laying on the bathroom floor." Pretty ominous lyrics. But yeah, that's what popped into my mind. So I was like, okay, let's just go with it. So I kept repeating that to myself. "Maybe you'll find me laying on the bathroom floor." And I repeated that enough times to where when I finally did get back to my keyboard, I was able to successfully replicate the melody it saved on my computer. Maybe I'll play it at some point towards the end of this live stream. Okay, that was about 2.5 months ago. Fast forward to 1 week ago. I wake up in the middle of the night around 1:30-ish, 1:30 a.m. And I just feel like something's off. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. It's not a strong feeling. Like, I'm not like, oh no, something's very wrong, I need to call someone for help. But I just felt like I felt like it was some sort of a health problem, but a minor one. So I went downstairs to get some water and to look in the mirror. And when I did look in the mirror, I noticed my face was incredibly pale. Like, more so than even when I'm normally sick. Like, I'm not used to seeing myself this shade of just flat white. And then before I know it, I'm waking up on the bathroom floor. Apparently, without even knowing it, I just fainted in an instant. Now, I've fainted about 3 or 4 times throughout my life thus far, for various reasons. Never have I fainted in such a way to where it all just happened suddenly. It's always been a gradual process. Like, I can feel myself, I don't know, losing consciousness? It feels like losing consciousness, whatever it is. And then I can see my vision turning whitish, and I know, oh no, I'm about to pass out. But this, it was just like when I woke up, my first thought was just, wait, really? I passed out? I did not expect that. Because it felt like something was off, but not off to the point where I would faint. It didn't feel that severe. I did start, when I woke up on the bathroom floor, I started like banging on stuff and calling out for my parents to get their attention so they could come, help me up and make sure everything was all right. Because I didn't want to try to walk back up the stairs while in a state where I could possibly faint again. So my parents come find me on the bathroom floor, laying there, And at the time, I don't think about it. But then when Travis comes over a few days ago, he mentioned something about his bathroom floor. Oddly enough, I don't know. It was a strange coincidence. You don't often talk about the bathroom floor, but he did. And then I suddenly thought to myself, oh, wait, that melody, that melody I saved on my computer. Maybe you'll find me laying on the bathroom floor. I was found laying on the bathroom floor. Now, of course, this is all just a big coincidence. I'm not claiming this to be anything specific, but it is weird. If anything, the weirdest part is the fact that a melody popped into my head that made me think of the lyrics, maybe you'll find me laying on the bathroom floor. That's probably the strangest part of this whole story. But it is a weird and semi uncomfortable coincidence, to just have something happen to you that you kind of indirectly predicted through a creepy melody a few months prior. But that said, that is my final story here. As I said at the beginning, you can draw your own conclusions. I'm not claiming any of these to be anything relating to ghosts, aliens, demons, anything else. In fact, I'm almost certain none of these involve any of those things. But they are still strange and creepy nonetheless. And I hope, if anything, you at least got some entertainment out of it, or at least like a laugh at how stupid some of them are, especially the KFC one. But that is all. This is the first in a series, hopefully, of live streams / videos we will do for Spooky Month. This has been Spooky Clock Time, and now it is time for a spooky fortune.
You will find yourself at a Dollar Tree at some point during the next year.